Good evening, this is the Oscar expert here with Brother Bro. It's time to review News of the World, directed by Paul Greengrass, starring Tom Hanks and Helena Zengel.
The film is about a man who travels around the United States reading the newspaper for people because it's so back in the old times that they didn't have iPhone. And he finds a little girl in the woods who is abandoned and has no home because she was raised by Native Americans. And he has to go bring her back to people who she's biologically related to. Honestly, I was pretty bored for like the first 20 minutes because I was like, all right, we know this story. We've seen it before. I know exactly like what this is. And I was getting like more and more let down of like, oh, this is actually like just what it is. We're not going to get like good Paul Greengrass. It's going to be a story that, you know, anybody could tell, but Paul Greengrass is just going to do a better job than most in making it good looking and sometimes thrilling.
I was surprised at how little there was to the story. You know that when you get a story about old man has to be around young girl, they're going to have an interesting bond, maybe learn a little about each other. The conclusion was almost implied in the trailer. Like, it happened the way I expected. Even after the climax, there was one more scene. Thought, you know, maybe it would hit home in a different way. And it kind of ends on just being light. And I was like, wow, like this movie really didn't have much to say. It touches on some interesting things. Like Tom Hanks, like, you know, Americans, like we travel in a straight line. And then she's like, we encompass the whole world, but she doesn't like say it.
They think of their lives as like you're traveling in a circle, whereas he thinks he's like going in one direction.
And, you know, sometimes it touches on the political climate of the time, but all these things are so lightly like dipped into that it left me thinking, I bet the book goes into all of them more, kind of wraps them together nicely. This movie felt like sort of disjointed in like what it spends its time tackling and what it's going for. But of course, you know, it's a Paul Greengrass film. You expect that also to have like some good adventure. It's not as much of an action movie, of course, as what he's done. And stylistically, it's a pretty big departure. Working with Dariusz Wolski instead of Barry Ackroyd. The cinematography is a change. We don't get the really shaky cam. We get one zoom. In the whole movie. And the editing is not as frantic. It's a good look for the film. Like, I didn't think that Paul Greengrass needed to have that style.
Based on this story, the look is very good. Overall, the story doesn't really feel like Paul Greengrass needed to make it. It's kind of weird. I think it's the writer of Lion, and I can kind of see where that could tie in. And I think this one is going for the same thing. It's trying to be like simple and profound, a little tear jerky in the end. I think there's not enough story there to really like captivate. But for Paul Greengrass, what he actually does some scenes really well. There are a couple really thrilling scenes, and there's one where Tom Hanks is reading the news in like a town that is very good. The film is like gorgeous looking. It has like very beautiful cinematography, and everything feels very real. Like when Tom Hanks and Helena Zengel are on the horse, they're like shaking up
they're
and
like
down
actually
because
getting
they're actually on.
I
mean, they must actually be on a thing. It has like a great period feel to it, and it feels very like tactile and real. Gorgeous natural lighting all around, as far as I can tell.
And the shootout scene around a third of the way through, this like extended sort of slow shootout that occurs, that was like a well edited, interesting scene just from like a thriller standpoint. Like that was a really good scene. There are good moments, and it's really well shot. It's one of the best shot films of the year, in fact. I would say the shootout is probably where it peaked excitingness wise, and then otherwise it's going for like sort of the emotional connection. For some, the emotional connection's gonna hit, but for me it was just like too predictable where it was going. And it gets there and you're like, yeah.
I like don't know if like my parents or like other people would like it. I wouldn't recommend this really to anybody that I know. I'm actually curious because it got like a B+ on CinemaScore, like who really likes the movie. And I heard a couple people say they liked it a lot. So I'm a little bit confused because to me it was like a boring movie that wasn't boring because it was a slow burn. It was just kind of like absent of, you know, unique or exciting qualities. Like for like half of it, I would say half of it's like that. And then the other half, there are some good scenes here and there. But yeah, I don't really know who would like love the movie. So I definitely don't see it getting a Best Picture nomination. On paper, it's everything. It's an Academy Award wet dream. I don't think anybody's gonna like love it. And Tom Hanks is not doing more than you've seen him do. He will not get a nomination. I really just think it's going to stay in technicals. Some people still think, this is a boomer movie and the Academy is full of boomers and they're going to see it and it's, it's going to be the wet dream they wanted to have.
Darkest Hour.
But I just feel like this is not a lot. It's so slight to me. Like it's such kind of a forgettable movie.
Yeah, I was really surprised with that. I mean, I love Captain Phillips and United 93.
Yeah.
Like, my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
I think the Rotten Tomatoes score is like an 85 or something. On Metacritic, it's in the low 70s. It could be locked in for cinematography because, I mean, first of all, like Dariusz Wolski like needs a nomination at this point. Like done great work on Ridley Scott's films. Costumes, production design, like more than welcome to nominate this movie, which looks great. The score is very good. I thought the score was really tasteful in that it was never overbearing. The movie could have even called for a more overbearing score and it would have been fine, but it's understated and it's well arranged and it's very like soft and gorgeous.
I guess sound could be in contention. I don't know what you think about that.
Because they have guns and like wind and the wheels falling off. Even though it seems pretty likely for maybe those four, I could see them just kind of snubbing it here and there because maybe they don't like it that much overall. Helena Zengel has some hype in supporting actress more than Tom Hanks does in his category.
And she is very good in the movie, by the way. A lot of the times child actors will just take you out of the film because you can see the performance, but you can't with her. Like, she is very good, and I'm interested in how she develops her career.
Persisting through the fake freckles, in fact.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that wasn't, I don't like those. I don't think she'll get nominated for it.
There's other priorities. And I would be like, what? If it got nominated? Because I really don't like see how it's that good.
Overall, like, I am honestly just more disappointed in the fact that Paul Greengrass like spent all of the time like making this movie, just because I don't know why he did it. Like, I'm not sure what the reason for this movie coming into existence is. Maybe there's like a better version of it somewhere.
Yeah, my suspicion is that the book had more to it and this movie just didn't like dive into any of the areas that might have made that book interesting. Have not read the book, have no idea. But look, at times it's compelling. Like, I liked watching Tom Hanks and Helena Zengel like teach each other words. Like, there were moments where their bond was kind of touching.
I didn't even love like those moments because I was like, of course we have these moments in this movie. Like, of course, where like she's eating with her hands and it's like, you're supposed to use a spoon. And she's like, I also feel like it would have been a better movie if it explored the fact that, okay, she's been raised by Native Americans. Like, maybe that's where she belongs. The route it took is so uninteresting. Like, when you really think about it, is it really even possible for like the child to end up where she did without like feeling conflicted? Because the movie definitely makes you feel like everything is nice and tidy and resolved in the end. And I don't even feel that way.
Oh, and also there's like this total motif about like the power of the stories we tell. And that just didn't end up like landing, even though it was so obviously like trying to be a motif. I'll give it a 6, but at the same time, this review was so like negative.
That's exactly what I think. I'm like, okay, the movie's a 6 because not terrible. Yeah, I would say it's still a 6 because I didn't like hate myself while watching it. But I guess I didn't need to see it though, you know?
Yeah,
I didn't
that's
need
why
to
I
watch
wouldn't,
it.
like recommend.
So does that make it a 5? Like, I don't know.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing.
Have you ever been in your newspaper?